Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, people, boys and girls. It's 11th of March, 2022. Talk and Sip. I want to welcome you tonight. Welcome you to a very special night. As a matter of fact, what I'll say that every night is special. Everything is special for you. Everything is special for me. And we can create things that we want it to be. The most important thing is creating things that we want it to be. You know, today I was walking in the park and I took my daughter with me in the park and we had a good time just really enjoying the birds, enjoying the weather, enjoying everything actually around. Playing, seeing the dogs, running away from the dogs. We're just enjoying nature. And I think that, just one second. I think that when you go outside and you really enjoy God's nature, enjoy what God has in store for you, it puts things so much into a semblance of order. It takes away the cares of the world, and the cares of the world which sometimes weighs heavily upon people, where everybody believes that somehow they have got to rectify the wrongs of this world. We cannot rectify the wrongs of this world, but we can ensure that we rectify the wrongs within our lives, and we can actually fix the things that we can fix. And what we cannot fix, we leave it to who can fix it. You know. And today on Talk and Sip, what I've done, I've coined the topic, which is it time for government of national unity? And of course, ladies and gentlemen, this is in specifics toward Jamaica. Let's make no bones about that. I mean, in the UK, we can talk about that. There's so much going on in the UK. There's so much always going on in the world, as much as possible. But we're talking about Jamaica. But before we go any further, I'd like to ask people, ladies and gentlemen, what are you drinking today? Talk and Sip is the one bar concept of the Diaspora, whereby we have these discussions. I'll have guests that will come on tonight. And sometimes I don't know who's going to come on. I've had Talk and Sit before, whereby I think I've been the only one, if anything, or just be ready for anything. And if you want to come on the show, there's the opportunity as well for you to come on the show. There's a link, and you can actually join the show. And I'll place a link right here now, which is the invite link. And the invite link is going to be posted right here. Here we go. That's the link there. So therefore, that's one. And also, what I've done, I've created a number for persons. Where is that number? I now got a number. Yeah. Yeah. Is that number there? Yeah, so what are you drinking? Well, I'm just having in a glass of Stella Artois, but actually it's water. I think you've heard us speaking over the past couple of weeks about as men that we've got to make sure that we are very healthy, and we've got to cut down on the alcohol, cut down on the sweet drink, cut down on the food, which is actually not helpful, not good for us. Over the years that we have been, in a way, eating these bad food, and I shouldn't say bad food, I should say food, because food really, in a sense, is not bad, but somebody will say it's bad. because we have all different type of food that we like. So I wouldn't say bad. I would say alternative food that we like to, have. And one has got to be very careful how you look after yourself. Very important to look after yourself, because if you don't look after yourself, you can't look after others. You can't look after your family, and that is very important. And I've always emphasized this as well. Something which I always talk about with level of responsibility and maturity, and especially with men. Not just with men, but with women and those persons who are head of their house. It's very important that you have yourself prepared. One of the things I talk about a lot is to make sure you have your will. Yeah, get your will all sorted and all those sort of things. That's very important. That's very crucial. Yeah. Well, anyway, in the UK, I'll go straight in the UK. And what's happening in the UK is Gary Lineker. There's a big thing which is happening right there in the UK. Gary Lineker is the host of Match of the Day, which is a football program, which is over here. And with the football program, what happened is that the government recently made set out its policy regarding the asylum and for those persons who are traveling with the boats. Now, when I say the boats, that is people coming into the UK seeking asylum, right? Let me see. Peace, balance. Hi, Michelle. How are you? Bless you. Bless you. Bless you. And I think, yes, I think Gary tweeted to an extent saying that the policy is somewhat aligned or similar to the what do you say? Similar? It is similar to the Nazi, regarding with the Jews, and they said the rhetorics and the language is not really helpful, and such rhetoric. So you want to speak up for it, but Gary Lineker apparently, and not apparently, he is. I wouldn't say he is an employee, but I would say that Match of the Day is a big thing in the UK, and Gary Lineker is like the UK treasure. They call him a UK treasure, and he's been hosting that show for a long time. And he made those comments which completely goes against the government. And the BBC is what we call a government treasure as well. Anyone who lives in the UK and have a television, if you don't know, we pay TV tax, TV license to watch TV. Even if you don't watch BBC, but you watch live TV there, you pay your TV tax. I think it's £160 or £159. And a lot of people are not happy with that. I think Gary Lineker makes a lot of money, over millions. I don't know how much he makes or so. Of course, I can Google it and find out how much he makes. And so what they're saying is that two sides to the coin. He has an influence. Gary Lineker has as near to 13 million following. I can look on it on Twitter now. Gary Lineker, let me see. Gary Lineker. There it is. Okay, 8.8 million followers. He has 8.8 million followers. And let me see if I can find his tweet. Gary's tweet. Yeah. There's Gary Lineker tweets. Yes. Well, anyway, tweet is very busy. His tweet is very busy, talking about the whole thing, and I think he's not going to relent. And in regards to his voice, people are saying actually that he's not an employee, but the view is that because he has this amount of following, and because he's speaking from a left perspective, in a way, they want to cancel him. And when it comes on to canceling, I don't like canceling no matter what. Whether I like the person or not, I don't believe in canceling. I believe that people should be able to speak and to be able to hold their own. There's a level of responsibility at the same time when one speak. And as a result of that, the program is now Well, he's been suspended, but the program is going to go ahead. And as a result of that, couple other persons have decided that they are not going to uh, go to work. Go to work. Can you imagine that? How many of you can actually decide and say you're not going to go to work? Ian Wright said not going to go to work. Alex Scott says not going to work to work. Alan Shearer said they're not going to go work because they say they want to show solidarity with Gary Lineker. How many of you can actually say you're not going to go to work? See, one of my views is that these guys are overpaid millionaires, you know, and I sometimes think it's a red herring in a way. I sometimes think it's a distraction. I think at the same time that he has a right to speak, and everyone has a right to speak with level of responsibility. I mean, even in the UK here now, not even the UK, in let me see if I can find it in Jamaica. Yes, in Jamaica, there's that guy there, vlogger Andrea Stevenson. He's threatened with defamation suit for SSL related comments. They want to silence him speaking. Everybody want to speak up. Everybody want to share their views, but at the same time, there's a level of responsibility with sharing their views. Um, I do my show, and I share my views, but as a lawyer, you tend to be qualified with what you speak, and you try to speak properly with facts, and if not with facts, you allege. I remember once I had a guest on my show. This was a sit-down show, and it was great, fantastic. But by his presence on my show, I got some call from some big wigs to say that, hey, we're trying to find this person, and some of the things the person was saying wasn't correct. And as a result of that, I had to pull the show. And from that, I'm always very careful as to the persons that come on the show and utter like their statement, because it may have some sort of implication at the same time. So with speaking, there's a level of responsibility at the same time, which is so crucial. But the most important thing is that I strongly believe that one should be able to speak without fear, but with responsibility. Because I do recall, and I never forget that night on Instagram, and that's why I started using YouTube on Instagram, where we're talking about the talk about the vaccine. We can say those words now, but before we couldn't say those words or say it out very clearly. And I remember saying those words, and as a result of that, the show was completely shut down. Completely shut down, ladies and gentlemen. The show was shut down, totally shut down in Instagram. It's like a hand went inside there and just closed it down. I saw it literally with my own eyes. Like in the spirit, I could see like something went in there and just shut it down. Because people sometimes do not like what you say, or sometimes they say the truth can be very effective. And sometimes you challenge what people like what people not challenge sometimes a lie. They sometimes challenge the truth at the same time. And one time when I hear about suit and defamation of character, I sometimes think about it and say, hang on a second. I've heard people sometimes they don't want to sue everybody that shares something, and I'm saying, man, you're gonna have to sue the whole world, because this whole world, as it is set out now with blogging, vlogging, social media, everything, everybody is a platform, everyone has a voice, everyone is always saying something, and to shut them up, how are you going to shut them up? So I'm looking forward to this case with Andrea Stevenson. I'm looking forward to that case also with Gary Lineker, to see how that unfolds, and I'm looking forward to see at the same time if this could be a reckoning on the big thing, which is called the TV license. Yes, the TV license. So maybe this could, I said that maybe this is a time now where there can be a very good debate in regards to the TV license. Do we need a TV license? I saw somebody, a friend of mine said, I'm not in the mood. I'm not going to work next week. I'm standing in solidarity with Gary Lineker. Person running a joke. And to go back to the point, how many of us can actually say we are not going to go to work? We're standing with solidarity with Ian Wright. How many exactly? You don't have a TV. You don't need a TV these days, boss. You don't need a TV because everything is here. on the phone. Nobody watches TV anymore. Kids don't watch TV anymore. Everything is on the phone, you know. And that is why I believe eventually the TV tax is gonna go. A TV license will go eventually one day. And just like I'm not Boris Johnson, but our good mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, he said the ULEZ is just an extension of what Boris started. And therefore, I'm just following through. It's not my fault. It is Boris' fault. Boris is the one that started it, and he's talking about Boris Johnson. That is very interesting, ladies and gentlemen. But anyway, moving on from that. Let me just do something here. Boom. Yeah, moving on from that, the teachers in Jamaica. I was watching something, and the teachers demonstrating. Teachers actually saying that they can't eat. The money which is being paid them is limited. I know of teachers who are actually thinking about going to the UK or going overseas because something is not adding up. It's like there's one would say it could be a crisis. Would we say that's a crisis? Why do you have a national unity government? National unity government sometimes comes in crisis. Is Jamaica in a crisis? Right? And sometimes I've got to qualify it because what we hear from overseas, sometimes we hear it through the mediums which are out there. And the mediums are the mainstream media. But what is taking precedent over the mainstream media are the bloggers, those who are actually out there on the front line and going to talk to it, digging deep into the whole thing with people calling in. And it is actually creating an impact, I believe, a fundamental impact. That I was watching Nationwide the other day, and I was surprised and I was somewhat appalled when there was the killing of the security guard. The security guard and the other lady who was shot. And it kept playing over and over and over and over again, and they were commenting on it. That wouldn't happen in the UK. There was still the picture. And I wouldn't play it myself, actually, because the parents, the mother, the father, the children also of that person, a security guard, and that other person would not be happy seeing that going over again. It was just going over and over again. And I start to wonder if why this is happening. Is it because that the mainstream media is now realizing that they are somewhat losing their touch? And by losing their touch as a result of the vloggers, and by losing their touch, they are trying to get up there and try to, create stirs. I don't know. Could it be? Right? And that is something which is actually educating, telling people, enlightening people, showing people actually what is happening in Jamaica. Talk and Sip, we specialize and we discuss things regarding Jamaica. And for the few weeks we have been talking about things from the Integrity Commission, talking about the local government election, which they didn't have, and consider that as somewhat a failure on the part of the government in Jamaica. And when I say the failure, and when I say government, I say government, when I'm talking PNP, JLP, it's a failure of the leaders, because it would have given an opportunity for people to be able to hear, or not rather hear, I made a mistake there, not hear, but for the government to hear, for the opposition to hear what the people are actually saying. What are they actually saying at this time? An opportunity to get a bloody nose, an opportunity to say, hey, I've heard them. Let me actually listen. Let me act as a result of this. Could it be? And I believe that was an opportunity which failed. But could it be that the government of Jamaica is planning to have an election? And that election could be a combination of a local government and also the general election, and pull a fast one. Question is the opposition ready? I saw a poll of recent days, and the polls showed that people are fed up with the JLP. But at the same time, many people are saying, while they're fed up with the JLP, people are saying, what about the alternative? How effective is the alternative? And it goes like this. If I can see it. Let me flick this so you can see this. Flick the video. There we go. No third term for JLP. 45% no. 29.9, 24.8. You know, I've been in the UK for a while. And one of the things that I know is that sometimes you can't even watch the polls. Why? Because there's a powerful force which is called the sleepers. I call it the sleepers. I call it, or another word is call it the silent majority. Another word is called the silent majority. Those who actually don't say much and they keep quiet, but they go out and they vote. And that is one of the things I say to people at this time is get yourself enumerated, get yourself ready, get yourself prepared, get yourself to be able to have a voice as much as possible so you can speak up on these things. There could be a third party, it could be a fourth party as well. I've heard that there could be a fourth party. There's a UIC, there could be an Up Jamaica, there's JLP, there's PNP. What if the third parties, the fourth parties come in and create a little upheaval, get 2 or 3 or 4 seats or 5 seats? But is that really good enough? Because it's like one is going to go that way, the other one is go that way. They're saying the JLP is going one way and the PNP want to go that way. But nobody seems to be talking about this big thing, and which is Vision 2030. Yeah. Someone said on Instagram, back. So education and politics is in crisis and fear mongering is more important. Well, in the UK, politics and football is showing that it is more important. And everybody's talking about that now. So nobody's talking about anything in the UK now. It's about football. Football and politics. Guess what? Politics is back. Politics is sexy. You know what I'm trying to say? Politics is sexy and it's back. The National Unity Government. And when one think about the National Unity Government, you say it is they call it a broad coalition government consisting of all the parties, yeah, in a legislature, usually formed during a time of war or other national emergency. A unity government lacks opposition. I'm reading. Or opposition parties are too small and negligible. It is where they come together and they decide and say, hang on a second, the nation is in crisis. There's a massive crisis here. Let us pull together for a season. But it's talk about emergency, right? An example is in Afghanistan, following the disputed 2014 presidential elections. A national unity government between both runoff candidates was formed with Ashraf Ghani as president of Afghanistan and Abdullah in the new office of chief executive of Afghanistan. This power sharing agreement broke apart after the 2019 Afghan presidential election, after which Ghani abolished the office of chief executive, while Abdullah again refused to recognize Ghani's presidency and demanded the formulation of a new government in northern Afghanistan. Both politicians lost power after the Taliban won the Afghanistan war and recaptured the country. So the government before was one of coalition, national unity. In Canada, during the World War, the conservative government of Sir Robert Borden invited the liberal opposition to join the government as a matter of dealing with the conscription crisis of 1917. The Liberals, led by Sir Wilfrid Laurier, refused. However, Borden was able to convince many individuals, Liberals, to join what was called a union government, which defeated the Laurier Liberals in the fall 1917 elections. And during World War II, the opposition Conservative Party ran under the name National Government in the 1940 election as a means of promoting their platform of creating a wartime national government coalition evocative of the previous war. The party was not successful in the election, which re-elected a liberal government of William Lyon Mackenzie King, whose party continued to rule alone or for the duration of World War II. Right? We can even go all the way to the USA, strangely enough, or even the United Kingdom. In the United Kingdom, first past the post voting, the British electoral system has long increased the likelihood of a single party gaining the majority of member of parliaments who have run most departments and the government legislation of the country since the early 20th century. After the formation of clear political parties in the Lord and Commons, the first national unity government came in response to the Napoleonic War, where William Pitt the Younger offered to replace the Prime Minister Henry Addington's government with a cabinet including all of the major parliamentary leaders, such as himself. So a national union government is nothing new in a way. It comes in crisis. But then the big question and what determines is who is a crisis, what determines the crisis, right? And if we're going to talk about Jamaica, you're going to ask yourself, is there a crisis? Depending on which side you're on, there's no crisis. Which side you're on, there's a crisis. In the United States, in hopes of bridging partisan politics during the American Civil War, Republican Abraham Lincoln ran for a second term under the new National Union Party, with Democrat Andrew Johnson as his running mate. The National Union Party allowed members to retain affiliation with other political parties. And since the Civil War, there has never been a national unity government in the United States in a traditional sense. There have been several instances, however, during national disasters of wars, that the two parties have briefly rallied around the president. And such instances, we talk about the attack on Pearl Harbor, assassination of John F. Kennedy, and September 11 attacks, whereby everybody came together and worked together. I could go further, Zimbabwe, different other countries as well, but we're talking about solutions. And if you're talking about solutions, then you got to look at how you can bridge a gap and make things happen. And when I put this out on a post on Facebook, average person said that and I said why? They're too corrupted. Yep, that's what they said. Too corrupted. Yeah. How are you, buddy?
I'm great, you know. Great.
I like your colors, man.
Happy colors, you know.
Huh? It's like you're in Jamaica. Where am I? Am I?
Yeah, man, you're on.
Like you're in Jamaica or something like that.
I lives in my Jamaican colors are represented. You know?
Yeah, man, I'm in Jamaican colors. Yeah. I mean the color of the plant. I was trying to find my hat, my flag, but I can't find it. Stuck somewhere or something like that. Anyway, how are you otherwise? How are you doing? Good?
Good. Very, very, very good.
Yeah.
Just tired.
Yeah. Do you watch Match of the Day?
No.
You know about Match of the Day?
No.
You don't know nothing what's going on in the UK here. There's a crisis in the UK, a major crisis. World war will fall apart in the UK because
There's all crisis in the UK.
Gary Lineker is has been asked not to come back to the BBC until they sort out something regarding his arrangement with BBC and the utterance that he made against the government of recent days. You know, so everybody says it's a crisis, and every post every every post that I see that there's a crisis, I keep commenting and say, "What's a crisis?" I have no idea what crisis they're talking about. Can you just these guys just get up and just say they say, and I'm putting myself into it. These guys keep coming up and say, "I don't feel like going to work today. I'm not going to work because Gary, my brethren, is out of it, so I'm not work today." These guys can just get up and do that, Lester. Unlike you, maybe you can do that.
Sylbourne, the funny thing, free speech is only free when the person who you say it to, it don't offend them. Yeah. So yeah, free speech as long as it don't offend the person who you talk to.
So therefore, what you're saying then is, if what's his name had said, the conservative government and dealing with the boat people, the asylums, is the best way forward, there will be no problem.
No. No.
Anila, how are you, Anila?
I am good. Tired, but good.
Everybody tired today. What's going on? I'm feeling tired today as well. Well, time is going.
Now I was on travels for the week, so came
Yeah.
back late this morning.
Okay. Good.
Big up my boss, Oni Loagon.
What's going on, Lester? How's Netherlands?
Oh, you know some of the Netherlands?
He's on the internet.
You on the global square?
Yeah.
There you go.
He's on the internet. Do you know that Dee was in Netherlands recently, and her husband?
Yeah, I saw some images of her in Amsterdam.
Okay.
You know, I saw where she visited Madame Tussauds place and all them things.
Light speaker say hello. Anyway, guys, how are you doing? Everything is cool. I mean, I was just asking Lester a while ago if he's familiar with what's going on in the UK, that we're in a major crisis because Gary Lineker is not anymore presenting the show tomorrow or tonight at 10 o'clock, actually, just about to start. Everybody's actually saying, I'll do it. Everybody's saying, I'll do it. You know, but it seemed like they made it into something bigger than what it really is, because I think it was a big thing, because Blogging God don't know about it. Only you don't know about it until I told you about it. So it's not a big thing, isn't it?
But O'Neill, I remember Dave Chappelle was offered a shoe deal by, I think, Nike or Adidas. And he turned it down. He said, listen, I don't want a shoe deal. I don't want to endorse any of these type of product, because as soon as I say something that they don't like, them, they're going to snatch it away from you, right? Or they're going to try to reprimand you, or they're going to try to take everything away from you. So him don't want a shoe deal. And at the time, a lot of people, when him say it, they were saying, boy, Nike pay millions of dollars for wearing them shoes, why not do it? But we have seen where he have said something and people find it offensive and they want to cancel him, and he was right. So just like Gary was a good old boy until him said something that the good old boys don't agree with, So
I think in the UK, it seems to me, maybe, and I could be wrong. I believe the discussion, and Sylbourne, you're more closer to it, is around, given sort of BBC is a public entity, right? And it seems there's a perception that the government has intervened in getting Gary off the air, based on statement, and I haven't read deeply into the statement, but it seems the larger discussion is saying if you have a government that, the BBC is supposed to be objective
Yes.
and then can influence, and I don't know if that's happened, can influence someone as powerful as Gary to, sort of, be taken off or suspended from the show.
Mm.
You know, what's next? And I think that's where the objectivity, because here in the U.S. we don't have a equivalent to BBC.
BBC.
We do have NPR, which is National Public Radio, which is quasi funded by government, and they have different shows. But I think the larger discussion, it seems, in the UK is, where does the government stand vis-a-vis, BBC, and what sort of influence do they have to be able to influence the suspension of someone who makes statements
Mm.
or make comments that they don't agree with, right? And I think you're seeing it across. And I was having a conversation with my son. My son is 21. And one of the things that, and I was actually proud of him about the statement, he
Mm.
said to me, he said the issue he has is that nobody wants to debate. Everyone wants to be in their own box, and nobody want to have a discussion around different topics. And
Mm.
you have to be mindful of the words you use because you're afraid of offending others. And, for a
Mm.
21-year-old to say that, to say, hey, it seems like, Lester and I having a debate, it's a good thing, and we
Yeah.
come to a conclusion. But in his circle, he said everybody wants to be right,
Yeah.
because their facts matter than the actual facts itself, or the way they feel about a word is more important than the facts itself. And as a 21-year-old, I'm like, wow, he's really thinking about this deeply, more than, some of our, more mature folks who think about it. And I think that's what's lost in society. One of the things that I love to watch is, I think the Oxford Common is what it's called, Sylbourne, where
The,
there's a debate on
a
two
debate.
topics.
Yeah. The
And
Union, Oxford
yeah,
Union. Yeah.
Oxford
Mm.
Union. I really love that show because you're able to see, a debate about an issue, and each side or both sides have to understand each perspective, and you go in and you make your point. And I think we're missing that, and I think the young people are missing that sort of debate, the kitchen table debate. Because I remember growing up, my grandmother, uncles, aunts, they never agree, but they had very spirited debate about different topics, and you learn. But unfortunately, we're not having that anymore. And it's easy for us to say, remove this person. Lester was making the case, David Chappelle got a lot of backlash um, for his comedian bit. Chris Tucker, not Chris Tucker, Chris Rock,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know, so it's like, if you're out there, you say, you know what, I have to be very mindful of the words I use, what I say. There's certain topics that I won't go into because someone could misconstrue the debate for saying that you're endorsing X, Y, Z. And I think it's a loss on society if we go down that route where we can't have spirited debate about a topic and then come up with solutions
Yeah.
that is in the best interest of the people, or have dialogue that is really really important. And I think that's where we're losing, if we're not careful.
Mm.
But O'Neill, in 2017, I was working at Google. I don't know if I told the story here already. And there's two employees, right? And they have this very weird relationship, friendship. And they would so what my function was to build servers, and they would supply us with the parts to build the servers. And so the boxes that we take the products from, they would put the boxes at our stations. And they were all this a guy and a girl, and they're always in competition to who can fill up more, who can do that, that. And but they would say very rude things to each other, but that's their relationship because they have lunch together, they drive to work together, they're very good friends. And they would just say stuff about each other, and everybody know that's them. This other girl was passing one day and hear the guy call the girl a particular B word, right? Nobody not talked to her, no. She got offended and reported the guy, right? They had this meeting and they were planning to fire the guy. The girl came and said, um, I am not offended. This is how we talk. She brought several other persons to say, hey, they're the relationship, them eat together, them go home together, them, this is their thing. But the management is saying, but she is offended by what he said. And everybody said, but nobody was talking to her. And the person who you're talking to was not
No,
offended. So how
Yeah.
comes you are more offended than the person who the statement is directed to? You're so to the girl saying, I feel embarrassed. I feel sorry for her. And the girl is like,
call coming in for you.
how we feel sorry for me when I am not upset?
Right. I think one of those things, Lester. As one of the things you hear me use the term, I always use it. I always assume positive intent, but in that case, the way I would process that, um, even though they're friends and they are coming to work together, there's also a place where, sort of my grandmother will say, you sort of have to watch your word when you're in the workplace, right? So the
Yeah.
words you and I, Lester, will use at the rum bar, I'm going to use that term, right? Taking it into the workplace is a different story, because then the environment is not yours alone. The environment is
Mm.
others, right? So think of yourself this way, right? If you're sitting in your office or wherever you sit in, and then there's someone that is using words that you attribute to you attribute as word that is disparaging, etc., etc., you're going to probably feel a certain way, and then you're going to report it. So I think in that case, it's more about understanding your environment versus, in terms of, he might have not meant anything by it, but in a larger public square, or not
Yes.
public square, in a larger sort of common area within a workplace, certain words, like, you know you wouldn't go in sort of a company and start cursing and using all sort of words, right? So there's some balance, I think, in that case, where you have to be mindful of the words you use, especially in a private company.
And especially the confined space that you're in,
Yeah.
especially the if thanks for that. If we're going back to the point about spirited debate, and as I mentioned earlier in my discussion and my opening regarding during the COVID period, whereby there was not that element of allowing people to have spirited debate. Because of that, some came down very hard, and people felt a bit somewhat what's the word, constricted, or or they feel like they couldn't open up as much as possible to talk about things. And it's the same thing even with what is happening with Gary Lineker, whereby the debate, everybody's scared of talking, everybody don't want to offend someone, but at the same time it is missing out that spirited debate. And rightly, as you said, even in school now, you do wonder what the children will turn out to be, because when sometimes they want to get people in to have these discussions, they will say they're too left or they're too right.
um,
And as a result of that, you're not able to have that debate whereby someone can actually listen to it. That child, that girl can listen to it and say, hang on a second, I don't agree, and be able to intellectualize it. And I believe that is what whereby the state somewhat is trying to be a nanny, if anything, of a lot of people, and especially of a lot of young people. And I believe that is going to be the detriment. And somehow I believe we have to try to see if we can get it back. But somehow I believe that the more things change, the more things remain the same. And I think we're going to find ourselves going all the way back to that zone.
Yeah.
On it.
I think you've heard the term
Mm.
over the years, my truth, right? There's a lot of
Yes,
people who said
yes,
my
yes.
truth. And the way I interpret it is, and I empathize for those people, but the same thing, facts matter. right? The great senator from New York, Patrick Mannion, normally says, you're entitled to your own opinion, but not your own
Mm.
facts, right?
Yes.
And I think that's where the politic the discourse has gotten so vitriolic across the
Mm.
board that you don't have that spirited debate anymore, right? We've made it personal in some cases where rather than having a debate about the
Mm.
substance of the argument, you start attacking the person. So, for example, if Sylbourne says X, I I don't address Sylbourne. I don't address what Sylbourne says. I
Issue,
attack
yeah.
Sylbourne as a person,
Yeah.
because yeah. So I think as a society, we have to figure it out. But what gives me hope is what I just mentioned when my son said that, right?
Mm.
Because I think we miss out that the young people actually they're debating in their own public square, and
Mm.
I suspect, and I'm a huge optimist that our young people seeing all that sort of debate and sort of that very acrimonious way that we're
Mm.
interacting, they're saying, wow, I don't want to do that. And I think your son, my son, your daughter, my daughter, they are going to be able to lift the conversation where it should be, because they don't want to look up and say, wow,
Yeah.
this is how we sound.
Yeah. They definitely want to take it to a next level. And
Yes.
and sometimes when you glean the social media platforms, the TikTok or the Instagram bit with the younger folks, you can realize that they're actually going about their thing, and they're actually finding things. Okay, there's some things like about Christopher Columbus, about Marcus Garvey, that we might have talked about for a long time. These guys are actually talking about it like it's a fresh thing to them, but they're
Yeah.
doing it in their own space, and they're actually reaching to their crew to a certain extent. And it marvels. And one can look at this, oh, I hear that already. But no, for them, they're stepping into something.
But
you know?
the interesting thing you bring up, like Christopher Columbus.
Mm.
Back in Jamaica, I made the argument. I was probably in ninth grade, and I go back the debate, and I'm trying to remember if it was my English teacher or my composition teacher,
Mm.
and she was like, "Well, you're gonna argue that Christopher Columbus did not discover, and then Sylbourne, you're gonna argue the
Mm.
point." And I wrote this essay
Mm.
that says Christopher Columbus did not discover the North American, and I went
Yeah.
back and you
You're
did
gonna
you
say you're gonna say what? Lester was there already.
I said Lester was there already. uh, but you talk about but this was a teacher who
Uh,
said, Lester, you're going to argue 1 point, O'Neill, you're going to argue 1 point, and guess what, come back next week, we're going to
mm.
have a debate in class around whether Christopher Columbus discovered. But those are the things that I think our younger people are going to get back into the habit of having that discourse outside of
Mm.
what we're seeing, because I think for them they're like, wow, I can't believe my dad and mom generation, right, can't have spirited debate about topics.
Yes. Because yeah, you're right. Lester. Yeah.
It I hear you, O'Neill, but I'm not sure. Um, a few years ago, I was in a park close by here where I live, having a Jamaican Trinidad barbecue and talking to some person. I don't know any of these people. I know one person who's
Hold
keeping the
on,
barbecue.
hold on. What you said, a Jamaica Trinidadian barbecue?
I
Yeah,
didn't go into that.
yeah,
I
Yeah,
didn't.
keep going.
yeah. So I was there talking to a bunch of people. So a particular female was there talking and very articulate, and so I was giving her a compliment by saying, I said, as a young lady, you're very articulate, and you do I can see that you have been reading and you do a lot of deep thinking, and there's issues that should bring up that the everyday young person wouldn't be cognizant of. The moment I use the pronoun she or female, she got so upset that I am calling her a female or she, right? And she's telling me that I should not call her that, you know. So Mr. Torres said, "Woman for call you," and so she's saying that she don't identify as a female. I'm say that's cool. You can not identify as whatever you want, but me can't lie to my item, right? So I can either don't talk to you and me talk to somebody else, but you can't force me to say where you want me to say, right? Because my item I tell me say me I look for a woman, right? You can't tell me she identify as a male, like she more feel masculine. Me say me feel like I'm white, right? That don't mean I'm right. You understand me? And me I go look stupid walking around telling people say for call me a white man, a Caucasian person, because them eyes are look on a very, very dark skinned man. Regardless of how me want to feel or how me feel to be identified as, you know, people's eyes are gonna tell them say, but the first time them see me, they must say, oh, that's a black guy. You know, me can get upset at them for them eyes say, and that's what she's doing. So is it the thing is that person start bring this our children's generation start bringing in a lot of emotions into a debate that is supposed, or a conversation that is supposed to be a conversation, right? The thing with you and I, and it has happened on this show a few times where I'm kind of glad Sylbourne kind of move from that. We have an all male cast, and when you look at the mutual respect, like five of us as males, the mutual respect, the respect in easing from one person to the other person, allowing the other person to go, and there's nobody trying to be on top. There's nobody trying to overpower. There's nobody trying to belittle.
Yeah.
You know, and we don't get emotional. We don't get sensitive about something. You know, I can rubbish the argument that Sylbourne have, and Sylbourne don't get upset. Sylbourne can rubbish the argument that I have. You know, by bringing facts or bringing some information that I didn't know. Right? I say, hey, you said this, but actually is A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then once me hear that, me will yield and say, okay, I didn't know that. And if that is so, okay, cool. This generation here now, our children generation, don't have that capacity. I mean, as a generation, they don't have the capacity. Individual persons like your son will have that capacity. But when a person in our age group or reason, it's a whole different level.
So you're going. Well, listen. Just one more thing. Let's hope that they didn't wish her happy International Women's Day. Then, if you didn't wish her.
I think I don't have that pessimistic view because I interact with a lot of young people, and I do believe we can't paint a broad brush. I think there are segments, right, where there are topics that we're still learning about, we're still interacting, and the thing that I go back to say, I always assume positive intent.
Yeah.
And when I say something to someone and they say, well, I don't identify as that, I said, okay, well, help me. What should I refer to you as? Right. So I think, there's a lot of emotions in these topics, but I do believe young people, the ones that I come across, and there's a program that I sponsor for young people, and I'm pretty impressed by how widely they are able to debate different topics. I do you have pockets, so I'm a pretty optimist, and I think Lester, your drop. I do believe our young people are seeing the debates of our generation, and they're saying, I don't want to be that generation. We have to figure out sort of how we have a better dialogue on topics that are important to society. And I do have that optimism that our young people are, and you're seeing it across the board. You see it in the pockets. It's not just in the US. You're seeing it in the UK. So I'm a big optimist that that generation is gonna make us pretty proud. Because if not, I could tell you, Lester, based on what's going on, if we don't have that next generation that is looking at our generation and say, you know what,
Yeah.
we're not gonna run policies, countries, dialogue like that, we're in trouble.
Yeah, as they would say, dog name or supper in
Yeah.
regards to that. And in light of what O'Neill said and what Lester said, because there's two sides of it. Lester is possibly looking at the sort of trend with young people and how they are, and O'Neill is looking at another trend of young people of how they are, and then somehow we'll have to just be, as what I say, the elders that somewhat stimulate good debate with young people, because I believe that young people are looking and they're somewhat frustrated, and I believe it may create even a little anger in them and frustration. The fact that they're seeing, I always say to people sometimes, all this cussing, sometimes all this sort of shutting down and canceling, and people can't talk. They must look at it and say, "What's going on? Help us get off this world," or something like that. And I think we've got to, as much as possible, stimulate this level of discussion, especially young people. And I believe, in a way, as O'Neill said, that they're taking it and they're running with it, whether we like it or not. You
Yeah,
know?
there's a guy, I forgot his name. He created this deal called, I think, Mirror, around a Connex box. And the whole concept, he went around the world and just pick a topic, and he had different, culture talk about the topic, and then they sort of come together and have a debate, and it was so impressive once he sort of replayed that to a larger audience, how they're able to learn from these different generation and how they view these topics from around the world. And I do believe, Sylbourne, that you know we are going to be shocked, because the the sort of, I would say, across the pond, across the world, the generation that are making policies and creating these constructs, they're 40, 50 years removed, right, from, you and I generation. The average age here in the US for Congress is almost 79 years old. So think about that, right? So the policies, that the debates that are happening, these folks are not going to be around, right? To even know whether these policies work and how they impact larger society. So we have to be optimistic about the next generation, because if you look at the history, they will say, post World War II, the West sort of took over, and now we're in this weird space. But I'm optimist that the next generation is gonna take up the mantle, just like the generation during World War II
Yeah.
took up that mantle.
Yeah. Interesting. I'm going to bring into the main topic there in a second. But you just said something a while ago, that the people who are actually the architect of key policies now, they're not going to be around maybe in the next 5 years. Biden might not be around. Trump might not be around. Um, what's the other guys them in the house, in your Congress there?
You
The
have Mitch, and
Yeah,
then you have Schumer.
yeah, Pelosi, of course, she's gone. Um, these key persons, even in the UK here, with pushing this war thing. And when I think about pushing this war thing, I'm trying to say, hang on a second, these guys need to just get around a table and knock heads together and say, stop it. But as Gary reminded me the other day, it's the end time. God is coming soon. So there's wars and
But
rumors of war.
Sylbourne,
Yes, let's.
um, I hear what O'Neill's saying,
Yeah.
and um, I have some questions where these young persons that O'Neill are, um, you know, dialoguing with, interacting with. What is the socio-economic background of them, what is the education background of them, because and not just the persons in the program. I talk about young people on a whole. If you're in an organization that require a particular skill set, right, and these persons went out and acquired that skill set, the conversations in that environment is going to be different. And as I have told people for years, and Sylbourne, you witnessed this on Facebook with me for years now. When I say Jamaican people don't, right? And a lot of people take offense to it. You see, in our circles, our close environment, most people what we know, or everybody we know, can read and write. Have some form of literacy, some form of training. The further out you go from your circle, right, and you start go into like the nitty gritty of the society that you're in, any society, but especially Jamaica, you start realize that it's your circle can really function in a literate fashion. You start finding more and more people very illiterate, or semi-illiterate or semi-literate. And then the issues, simple common knowledge. I've seen vox pops where people are asking, who is the current prime minister of Jamaica? Right? And the person book shuffle. The person asks again, what is the currency that is used in Jamaica? What is it called? Them don't know. But we take it for granted that the persons in our circle, because we associate with them so often, that everybody is literate. Now, what I'm saying, O'Neill, is that these young people that I have seen and observed on the internet overall, right? a- An issue would come up. This has nothing to do with government. Nothing at all to do with government, right? And the first thing this person do is blame, say, the government mash up the country. I when we try break it down, say this issue has zero to do with government. Actually, your labor right.
All
No,
right.
this
All right.
this is a full interaction with this person. So there's no room for respectable debate.
Yes. All right. All right. Stick up in there. Welcome, Mr. Nugent, neighbor Nugent. Make sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think he's here.
Mr. Nugent.
Davion Nugent here, sir.
Oh yes. Oh yes. We can hear you. Good afternoon.
Here, sir.
Good afternoon. How are you doing, sir? Ladies and gentlemen, David Nugent is a freelance sports journalist. Work with major local media.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yes, I realize there's a little
There's a delay
there. With major local media houses such as Class,
I'm not sure
TV.
what's happening.
Okay.
Yeah, we could hardly hear.
Okay. What I'm gonna do, Lester, I'm gonna do something is I'm going to ask you to have a chat with Davon for him to come back in. Davon, if you can hear me, if you can come back in. He's sort of frozen.
Yeah,
Check.
he's not here.
Yeah. I will chat with him, Lester, yeah?
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, okay, good man. Okay,
Yeah.
cheers. I'll come back in, yeah.
Now, I think Sylbourne, I was actually in Jamaica and the young man. So I don't subscribe to the fact, when we start use the term illiterate, right? What does that mean? My grandmother had a third grade education, and she could do math in her head more better than anybody else that I ever seen up until she was in her 90s, right? I think the question is more on the quality of education, right? Why would you have someone who, live in Jamaica and is a young people, and I don't know the age of that young person, that don't understand, who the Prime Minister of Jamaica is, and also don't understand the currency, because that person should be spending that currency on a daily basis.
Yes.
But I think sometimes we vector to, what is education, right? Some people who are book smart, who went to university like you and I, people might say, well, the person who just have a high school is not as literate. But I don't subscribe to that sort of thinking, right? If we look at right now, some of the most powerful cooperation across the world, they're not run, or they weren't created by folks who have college degree. They are college dropouts.
Yeah.
So I think we have to be careful of the words that we use, because it's more than the quality of the education. Because you and I, when I went to primary school in Jamaica, you have to recite, you have to know the what you call nani.
Timetable. Oh,
No,
yeah.
you have to be able to every morning. You have to the national heroes. You have to know
Yeah.
that. You have to know all the prime ministers. You know, you have to know
National
the
heroes.
national heroes. You have to know the capital of the big cities around the world,
Mm.
right? There was a time you come in and everybody in motion, and it was a beautiful thing to see, because the teacher, everyone is standing, and they
Yeah.
will say United States of America. They keep going, and then she'll stop everybody and then say, Greece, and then
Mm.
O'Neill, and you
Mm.
better have right. It's so it to me, it's more the quality. It tells you the quality of the education has
Yeah.
deteriorated more than anything else. So
I remember even my father used to do tours, and when he was alive, and sometimes we would go on a tour, and he's taking tours, and I, as a little boy, I remember as a little boy, sit at the front of the bus, and then he says, okay, find out all these places, because I'm going to question you when I'm coming back. so I'm there with fear and trembling, or my sisters, we have to find these places, and then he's going to question us coming back, so we have to know all of these different sites coming back. So therefore the life was a level of education. It's like the parents, I must say, I don't know if it's a different thing, but your whole life, school and everything, was a learning thing. It was like a challenge to learn an education as well. Let me see if Devin, are you back?
Yeah, sorry
Ah,
about that, guys. Not sure what happened.
don't worry, you're good now. You're good now. How are you doing? What's up, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good, Actually, before I came on, I was trying to watch a few of the races at the National Stadium, trying to
Okay,
catch up on my track and field.
the
I thought you.
champs, right?
Yeah, champs coming up. What 2 weeks away? So you got to catch up on that.
Yeah,
What?
Edward Allen is going to take Girl Champ, so I'm not even watching.
Well, if you say Edwin is going to win, I'm not going to fight you, but it's going to be a close battle between Edwin Allen and Hydel. Hydel winning at Central Championships by half a point, so that battle is going to be definitely interesting.
Yeah,
So what about
coach.
York? What about York Castle High School? York Castle High School.
Well, I know they have a new track and field coach, and he's been doing some good work lately. So hopefully they can score some points at championships as well.
I was
They
in the
probably
same
get
class.
1 point. They probably get 1 point.
I was in the same.
Maybe two or three. Maybe two or three.
I was in the same class as Dion Emmons. She's just sitting next to me. We're in the same class. Dion Emmons.
Whoa. Then you know that you're a legend, because Dion Hemmings is the athlete that actually got me into track and field.
Yeah.
I remember watching that race with Dion Hemmings winning Jamaica's first gold medal on the female side. When the commentator was saying, "Here comes Button, here comes Button," and we never saw her anywhere. Dion Hemmings just ran away with it. That race actually inspired me to take on track and field seriously.
Yeah, because Raymond Treasure, the principal of York Castle High School, we're all in the same batch. With Raymond Treasure, who's the principal now. So yeah, so that's wonderful. I don't know if you heard. I'm gonna go into the other topic, but I don't know if you heard what we were discussing a while ago about the youths and the new generation. But let me just clarify first. You're a freelance sports journalist, and
right.
Where are you now with class or what?
Yeah, it's no Omega KLS Radio, but I've done some work for them. I've done some work this season. I've worked with CVM. I've worked with the Jamaica Observer. I also run my own vlog where, if you know Track and Field Nerds, we have over 100,000 followers at the moment. So I'm part of that group as well. So I've been in and around media for a while now, since I think 2016. Olympics 2016 was my first appearance on any media platform, and since then I've been in and around.
So they won't shut it down like Gary Lineker or Andre Stevens.
Nah, man, me too resilient for get shut down.
We were talking briefly about young people, the new batch of young people coming on, and there were two sort of differences whereby they're more astute now, getting a bit peed off and not allowing this culture of canceling and not having interaction and discussion and debates, but they want to actually take it further. What's your take on that?
Well, let me tell you, first of all, young people nowadays are different. I don't consider myself as an old person. I'm still in my 30s,
Yeah,
still relatively young. Yeah,
like me,
still
like me, and like me. I'm in my 20s.
yeah,
Yeah.
still relatively young. But I tell you, when I look at persons who are younger than me, who are early 20s, late teens, they are from a different world. I'll tell you that.
Mm.
Some of the practices, some of the beliefs, some of the just everything. It's just different. I'll give you a perfect example. It's now become fashionable for young people to be into guzu, obia. Everybody want a gathering or a piece of the obia fabric. When I was growing up, if you hear about obia over there, so you make sure go the other way. So it's a completely different culture, different set of morals from just 5-10 years from where I am in terms of my life experiences. So I mean, it's although I'm considering myself still as a young person, it is very difficult for me to really identify with the persons who are coming up now, next generation X as they like to be called. It's very difficult for me to identify with them. It's very difficult for me to even interact with them because they have a different set of everything. They're not interested in book learning. They're not interested in hard work. They're not interested in thinking future. All they're interested in is no. What can I put in my belly? No. What can I put on my back? No. What kind of car can I drive? No. It is a culture of noism. It's not a culture of thinking ahead. People used to say, all right, I'm going to save and I'm going to buy my house. I'm going to put down a little something for a rainy day. That doesn't happen anymore. It's all about getting a quick buck and spending a quick buck.
Is it like what Veronica Tate said a while ago? Ask them how to scam. You'll be surprised how much they know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm a track and field person, right? And I'm going to be on the track and field shows because, as it says, champs coming up. And one of the things that has hit track and field very, very, very hard, especially since COVID, I'm talking about track and field at the high school level, is the scamming. The coaches are now starting to complain that, hey, we can't get any talent because all of the talent is going to scamming. They're starting to literally complain that we cannot get the kids to come to training because they come to training one day and they do good and you think, okay, all right, I'm going to prepare this athlete to be at champs and probably get a scholarship in a couple of years, and you're preparing them for the future. And they go out there one day and somebody flashes a nice watch or a car in front of them and say, come, here's a lead sheet. And they're gone. And that is it. You're never getting them back. They're gone.
O'Neill. Yeah.
So here's the question. So if you sort of look back, how much do you think, because when I grew up, obviously, when I was in high school in Jamaica, we didn't have social media, right? But the interesting thing, you talk about the gathering thing, there was a big thing back in my time because there was this story, I don't know if it was true, that Mr. Siaga had a gathering. So everybody wanted a little gathering, but that was just word of mouth. How much you think social media is playing a part in that bit where you see everybody is sort of flaunting, whether it's a car or whatever, on social media? How much of that you think is a factor in the behavior of young folks?
Well, I think that it is a big factor. It's a huge factor, as a matter of fact. Social media is what everybody wants nowadays. TikTok, Facebook, and it can be very, how you call it now, intoxicating when you have certain persons from maybe an inner city community or even a rural community who they're locked away in their little corner. They don't get much highlights, spotlight, or clout, and they come on social media and they do a video that myself or you may very well think is disgusting. But all of a sudden, they find that they get 10 likes, 20 likes, 30 likes. And then all of a sudden now, they're starting to get all this attention and limelight. And people gravitate towards that. People feel that, and they feel that it is real. They feel that the social media highlight and likes are real. Let me tell you, as I said, I run a vlog with 105,000 followers. So I've been there. I know what that likes is like when you get 200,000 persons watching one video that you did. It can be intoxicating. It can cause you to really want to do it again. But here's the thing, it's not real. It is not real. Even since the last couple of days, I've been seeing videos going around with these pranksters where they're pretending to rob people.
Yeah, I saw that. I think I saw it on your page. Yes.
Yeah, they're pretending to rob people, and one gentleman actually got hurt. And you know what I said to myself? Should have been killed. Because they're not going to stop this thing until somebody learns a serious lesson. Because they think that this pranking thing and this social media thing, and it's not real. It's a virtual world. But because they get all this attention from it, they get all these views from it, they keep on doing it. And then when you meet up into the real world and you have to suffer the real consequences of your action, then they find out it's not real. So he's carted off to prison. It looks as if he has a chop wound or something, but he gets what, 15, 20,000 views. Is it worth it?
Dave, big up yourself and welcome to the panel.
Yeah, man, no
you know, I was a avid user of social media, you know, and politics and all them things. And even when I was in the music industry full time, used to use it a lot. One of the things that I could easily turn off social media, and I've not been on social media heavily since November, right? It's something that a lot of people think that I couldn't stop though because I was so heavy on it. I have been popular since I'm 13. I had a popular dad, you know, so popular from like in the late 80s, 90s at church, school, community, wherever. You understand me? In other communities. Social media has given persons who never had popularity, never had attention. It give them this wide platform, you know. I remember one time, and O'Neill can remember this. O'Neill can identify with this. Ugly people always get attention. You understand me? So right, O'Neill?
Yeah, no, I'm ugly. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but I have seen persons who would have never ever gotten attention, but because of they can turn the camera on them can do something funny or them can do something outlandish, you know, them get this attention. But what I've seen happening now is that at one point, professional persons never used to want to speak out in the media, right? The advent of social media, we have seen soldiers dancing with guns, soldiers making commentary, police dancing with guns, police making certain commentaries. Remind me if I'm correct about it, 6 or 8 officers from Pika got fired because they came on Wayne Lonesome show and they were bad mouthing the government and bad mouthing Andrew Holmes and they got fired, right? Now,
and just to point out to you, Lester, that is not an Andrew Holness rule, you know, because you know we're gonna have the people who are going to say dictator. There's actually a rule. I'll find the rule for you which speaks to public sector employees and their conduct on social media, and that is not unique to the public sector either. I every place that I have worked for since probably 2015, I have
Me
had
too.
to sign a social media contract and
Yeah.
agree to behave a certain way on social media.
Yeah.
A lot of people have gotten away with it because these social media policies have not been followed up. So they see one person get away with it, so they think it's okay, so I can do it. But my grandfather always say, puss and dog not have the same
luck.
Yeah. So the point was, hold on, O'Neil, just a second, O'Neil. We have seen professional people who usually shy away from these outbursts, you know, coming onto social media, and in the latest bout, we have seen teachers now making pronouncement against the government, making pronouncement against Nigel Clark, and listen, not because it is the party that I support. What I'm saying is that there are avenues and ways of how to express yourself and how to deal with certain things. How I seen them doing it, right, is not the way. But what on the day, O'Neil want to come here.
O'Neil, go on.
No. Let Dave is the guest. Let
Yeah,
Dave go.
I just wanted
I
to
had
point
some
out.
I have some question for.
I just wanted to point out as well, Lester. It is not just about them expressing themselves. It's not just about them expressing themselves in a certain way. It's also about where they were expressing themselves. One of the video I saw was a teacher expressing herself, degrading parents who can spell cow, and she was sitting in a classroom, and it was obvious that children were in that classroom because you could hear them. And I'm saying to myself, are you sitting in a classroom in front of these children and degrading their parents?
Yeah.
Yes, if that one, I don't. That one, I'll have to review about that. But I'm particularly concerned about the one with the teacher sitting in the classroom degrading parents in front of the students. What message are you really trying to send there? I know you're upset. I know you're angry. I know you want your money, and I want you to get your money. I want you to get your money. But we must still remember that even in our moments of anger and even in our moments of wanting what we want or wanting what we should get, we must remain professional. Remember, teaching was a profession from long ago, where people look up to teacher, You have to call miss,
Miss.
And you have to call sir,
I,
sir.
I still call my English teacher who follows me when she mentioned when she respond me, I always say yes, miss.
Yes,
I still say yes, miss.
Big man,
O'Neil.
because school, I'm say yes, Miss Higgins.
Yeah,
I'm a man now,
O'Neil.
but I feel so uncomfortable. Yes, Mr. Sherwood.
Yes.
As you look up to these people were professionals. They were
Yeah.
were role models for you, and I really feel distressed when I see a teacher degrading parents in such a demeaning manner while sitting in a classroom. I don't like it.
Yeah, O'Neil.
I think where you're seeing Dave is to me is the breakdown of decorum, right? So you just mentioned that teachers were on a pedestal, and I think majority of the teachers are still. You have some who are in the profession, just like any other profession. But I want to go back to the social media impact because, right, the way the algorithm is tuned is sort of the craziest thing get to the top because those are the thing, the views and the likes. But there's also people that are doing really entrepreneurial things on the social media and making a living. There's a woman in Jamaica, I don't remember her name, but she sell clothes that she design on Instagram and she does very well. Like for me personally, I came off of Facebook perhaps 12 years ago. Once they changed their algorithm, I got off of Facebook, right? How much you think, in terms of what I just talked about, where you might have two kids, right? You might have two kids. One is saying, I'm going to teach math on YouTube. and then you have one that went out and did, exactly what you just said around pretending to rob folk. Which one do you think get the most views?
Okay, so here's the thing. And I'm going to put some perspective in it here, right? Negative sells. That's perception. Do you know that the number one YouTuber in Jamaica, the man who has earned the most money from YouTube, from social media, really, is a man that does football videos, positive videos. So he puts together the highlights, puts it together, and people come and they watch those highlights. So you have a footballer, Messi, Ronaldo, or whoever. People come and they watch it. And that, when he puts that together, that is not just generated towards a Jamaican audience. It's generated to the global audience because everybody wants to see a Messi, everybody wants to see a Ronaldo. So they're going to go to his videos and they're going to watch it. So he's the number one YouTuber in Jamaica. However, when you look at it, the impression among many Jamaicans is that the prank video them are going to get more views. So we have more and more people gravitating towards it, right? But we can do positive things. We can use social media to do positive things. We can use social media to earn money, right? But it is almost as if the culture, the mindset says to us, we must be negative. We must do the most outrageous things, the almost outrageous pranks. Some of the pranks that I'm seeing coming out, emerging now, those pranks are not even happening in countries that do not have our crime rate. They're not going to do it in America. Nobody's going to pretend to rob somebody in America. But they do it here in Jamaica, where we have one of the highest crime rates in the world. How does it make sense?
But Dave,
so I just want to have a follow-up real quick there, Lester. So,
no problem.
Dave, how much, we're talking about sort of, likes becoming the new drug, if you will. Everyone wants
it
one,
is.
right? There's been research around you have anxiety, especially on young girls who post something and then get up and trying to figure out the likes, right?
No likes. Yeah, I've seen it. And it's not even amongst young people only. It's also people who you think should know better. Somebody posts a video and people go on the video, oh, you're not getting the likes, only 1 like you get, only 5 like you get. And people become anxious and it's almost as if the whole day revolve because I post a video that I thought would get 100 likes and only get 5. So it's a real thing. It's happening. It's happening. And society is being molded by this thinking that you have to be negative on social media to get a whole heap of likes and them if a car crashes now where I am at right now and there are 5 persons standing out a road and the car crashes, the first thing the 5 persons are going to do is pull out them phone the video.
That helping.
They want to put it on social media. A crash.
There's been a big debate, right? And the European Union, you have GDPR, you have privacy, and there's a lot of policy that try to force the platforms to do something. Do you think in that case where someone posts a video of something outrageous as someone trying to rob someone pretending, what do you think the responsibility of the social media platforms?
All right, so as I said, this is virtual. We're living in the real world. We have to give it a real world response. If you try to manipulate the algorithms, somebody is going to find a way around it. These kids are still very tech smart. They'll find a way around it. My take on that is if you see that kind of thing happening and you believe that it can genuinely negatively impact the society, then you need to have a real world response to it. When I saw the pranks for the first time, I was saying that these men should be arrested for public mischief because that is what they're doing. They're mischief makers. So you arrest them for public mischief. I know it's just a misdemeanor and they're going to be out after a couple of hours, really. They're going to get station deal. But it does mean that you now have a record. Everybody knows what you are capable of, creating public mischief. You will have to spend the day at court to defend that public mischief charge, and you'll probably get a fine. So now you start to bring consequences into what you're doing, right? So when you have those consequences, then you have to decide, is the consequences worth 100 views? Is it worth 20 likes? So now you start to think, do I really need to do this? As it stands now, there are no consequences for what is happening. There are no consequences for all of this negativity. So people keep on doing it.
You know, Josie Will and I had a conversation 2 days ago, right? And he's saying to me that why my page is not popular, not popular like how his page is popular, right? And because
He's Jordan Bell and Leicester.
Yeah, the DJ.
Well, so he's saying that my delivery and my style of blogging is not connecting. I'm gonna say, no. If me want one of views right now, I'm not for that cost Andrew Wellness. You know, my I can everybody here on the live on the program, go to Leicester Gaza Man Game, Leicester Gaza Boss Game. Those 2 Facebook pages and just look on the video them from 2 old pages, just look on the views them. When me used to, cause at the time we were in opposition, and when me I give it to Portia, you understand me? Off the chart, right? Plus I was Sylbourne, I was filthy. The moment me start cleaning up my act, you understand me? My views them drop, but my connections grew. You know, so me rather sacrifice my views and my likes and my connections them in a society, not just politics, but in a society grow. And my networking grow because people start link me and say, oh, I like the new Leicester, oh, I like this, oh, we can have a conversation. A lot of people would not dare engage me in a conversation because they are Sylbourne, even putting facilitators for a better Jamaica page. Because of some people. You understand me? Wicked.
I had to remove Leicester a couple times.
Right? So and Dave, you and I in our one group together, right? And you see how me get up, but it's not in our private closed setting. You understand me? But on social media, me not act that way there again, right? And my views them drop and likes them drop drastically. I don't mind because it is not a big thing for me. I don't have to press the app. I know people, but in my age group and older, their behavior is as if they cannot survive without Instagram and Facebook. Big people. I mean, I say something wrong with you. You know, I mean, say this you don't earn from it. You don't do anything positive with it. You just your phone, and it is creating a very bad outlook on the generation below us coming. I'm talking like the younger children coming up because they are into tablets, phones and social media and stuff like that, and their communication is poor. Their interaction is poor. They don't know how to articulate themselves well. They don't know how to make friends. Like parents have to organize play dates, and it's weird. They might carry them tablet and play dates and stuff like that. But the thing is that Jamaica don't have control over certain things. Like so, we're an open society. Children, and like people always come and say, artists to clean up their music, artists to do this. We, the adults, expose children to lewd content. We because we post and we put it in the space where they can access it. and then we blame somebody else that we not having control over our children's device.
So I think
So go ahead.
no, we're the parents. We are the parents. We're talking about social media. You know, my son and I, we have a, you know, Dave. I have a 21-year-old son. Is the oldest, my oldest, and he and I have a pretty conversation about posting on social media because I said, look, remember, whatever you post today, 30 years, 20 years from now, is still there, and we have seen where someone was going to get a very lucrative job, and they look at their social media, right, and that job was rescinded. So I said to my son, just be careful what you post. And I think we had, as parents, we have to educate. And, you know, as I reflect upon it, right? For example, there's certain rappers that I listen to. When my sons back in the day were in the car, I would never listen to those rappers. Now, my son, his taste in music have evolved, but he could tell you when he was driving in my car, there's certain things that I wouldn't listen to. Like, I'll give you an example. There's one female artist out there that her first album, love her first album. Her second album, when I put it in the car, and a niece was in the car, I turn it off, and I never played that thing. So I think with social media, to me, there's a place where we have to educate the proper use of social media and the consequences of social media, right? And I think somehow policies has to be created. And I think this is where, Dave, I'd love your thoughts on it. You know,
Yeah. Two things. You guys made two crucial points, and I'll just follow up on them. You said COVID affected a lot of things. We talk about the kids and their learning time, but it also affected how they interacted with each other. Coming out of COVID, we are now seeing a almost pandemic of school fights.
Another
Right?
pandemic. Yeah.
Another pandemic. And a major part of that, guys, is that the kids were at home for 2 years, not interacting with their peers. So they don't know how to interact with their peers. They've lost that ability. If you look at when you were younger and you like a little girl, you start ramp around with her and maybe you push her because you don't know how to express yourself to her. You've not learned that yet, how to express yourself to this young girl. So it becomes physical and it becomes almost negative. That is where the kids are starting from because they've lost that ability to communicate, to interact with each other. So now we're seeing that pandemic of fights happening because they really don't know how to react to somebody sitting in a chair that they want to sit in. They don't remember, they don't know how to. So it a simple thing as somebody looking at them becomes violent because they're sitting at home for 2 years with nobody looking at them, so they don't know how to react. They have all this hormones built up and everything, and something new comes at them, they don't know how to react. And in our society, when that happens, we tend to resort to violence, and that is what we're seeing happening in our schools. I think what should have happened coming out of the pandemic would have been a period of resource socialization of our kids, where we take them into the school and we have socials, we have gatherings, and we allow them to talk to each other, to interact with each other, instead of putting them straight into the classroom setting. Unfortunately, that has passed. We don't have that opportunity anymore, and we now have to deal with what is there. The second point,
no, go ahead, Devon. Go on.
second point I want to make is this. We speak about the music, O'Neill, and you not being in a car with certain music playing with your son. I'll give you, this is anecdotal, of course. Couple months ago, I was in a taxi in rural Jamaica. I was in a taxi, and I came into the taxi, and there was a certain type of music playing, ramping shop kind of something, right? Everybody else in the car was an adult, so I was okay. I mean, me I'm big man, you're a big man, big woman. So all right then, fine. I want to get which part I want to go. So I sat in that cab. And then a young miss came in. She probably mid to late 20s, and she had her daughter with her, right? She sat in the taxi with her daughter, and I was there, and I was saying, boy, I want to say something to that young miss here, but probably if I say something to her, she gonna react negatively to it and say me a diss her or them dark behavior.
Make assumptions.
Yeah, so me say, what? It a burn me now. I want to say something to him. I want to say, miss, tell the taxi man to change. You see, before me could have built up the courage there, the taxi man lock off the music. And the man said, miss, me don't know how you do it, but my conscience couldn't bear it. For in the car and I play the music with the data in here. Me don't know how you do it. And she started to cuss the taxi man. She cussed him living daylight until she reached her stop. And when she came out of the cab, I said to the taxi man, I said, listen, you're one of the few taxi men I respect because you did the right thing. And no matter what she said, know that you did the right thing.
But
So,
you just tell you, Dave, around parenting and how much of this sort of come back into circle. There are things today that I don't do because my grandmother used to slap my hands and make sure you don't.
But what year now? I said this young miss was mid to late 20s. So 25, 26 is 27. She had a daughter that was about 8 years old, which means that she would have gotten pregnant, I'm assuming, as a teenager, right? So you have someone who is essentially a child raising a child. And if you look at her background, you probably find that her mother was also a child raising her. So the kind of values and interactions and lessons that she should have learned, she never did because her mother never taught her that. And she is not able now to teach her child that. Because you see, when you're 20, you're 20, 25, you don't learn nothing in life yet, You're still a child. You're still a learn.
Dave, the notion that nowadays pitney of pitney is incorrect. In a Jamaica, 13, 14, 15-year-old have been having children for generation, for our great grandmother generation coming up. The difference that they had a community around them. So you had.
I was just about to say that.
Say that. So you had the great grandmother, the grandmother, the mother.
Grandmother. You hear what you said? Grandmother.
In one setting, So that was the difference. What happened now? The family is splintered now. So as you rightly said, her mother gonna be a single mother, right? Have her and young and have her children close in age to young. And she come up and follow the circle because most single parents most teenage mothers, right, come from teenage mothers, right? And a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times the trend carry on until but the thing is, and more come back around to the topic.
No,
right?
So before you go, I don't know how accurate this is. But the last stats I saw was that in the last 10 years, 65% of the mothers are under 20 years old. If you go back and look at the statistics, that statistic has been the highest in decades, right? So you're right. And again, I don't know if the source is correct, but if you go back and they did sort of extrapolation, it is the highest it has been in decades. So I would say you have more teenagers than before that are having kids, and you don't have the infrastructure around the family to help, and that is making it even worse.
Another
feature in Lester, you talk about the community, you talk about the grandparents, you talk about the grandmothers and such and such. Another feature of old time Jamaica, I never experienced it, but my mother told me about it. An incident where she went and she did something out of the order, right? And a neighbor saw her and beat her, right? And she went to her mother, and her mother beat her. and tell her, listen, don't you ever do that again. No, in today's Jamaica, that not gonna happen.
Yeah.
People are gonna see a pitney, a drone, a dead, all kind of things, and
And
they
now
don't
touch her.
them. Them don't turn an eye.
Okay.
And you
Now
can't
listen.
really blame them either.
Yeah.
You
Now
can't
listen.
really blame them.
Now listen. It's very good that we are on this topic here, and the topic which I had coined. I'm not going to touch that one about government of national unity because I believe that this is very crucial. What would we say then coming out of this? And we started off with the O'Neill bit, whereby the youths of today very proactive, interactive. Leicester viewers, the youths today, fully dance to a certain extent. Um, and Nugent, you sort of put a balance to the whole thing regarding the social media. But how do we see ourselves coming out of this and educating the youth from a level? Raymond Treasure a couple of weeks ago said that the same point which you mentioned, that the young people when they came out of COVID is like the 16-year-old is operating like 14-year-old. The
It is
14-year-old
true.
is operating like 12-year-old or something like that. And therefore there was not that climatization into the new or stepping into the when they release. How do we get them prepared now? Because Joe, they used to talk a lot about it with the mental health and the mental health factor which is there. We've seen the fighting, we've seen all of this regular, but it's not just over in the Jamaica, it's happening in the UK as well. So let me just make that very clear. How do we see the solutions then for these young people?
I could go first because I have to
Yeah,
jump there.
yeah.
There. So, um, my belief is, we have to reimagine a lot of things, right? Education being one, right? How we educate our young people. We have to figure out in this day and age. Someone said if George Washington come back, one thing he'll see that is true. You still have a classroom where you stand and educate kids. There's a blackboard and desk. We have to reimagine that. But it's not just Jamaica, right? We have to look at the resources. I was talking to a principal in Jamaica, and I won't say the school, and he said to me, and I'd say something after this. Damien Crawford said there was 1,000+ kids that are coming to school that don't have food to eat,
Mm.
don't have food. And he said the government provide about $150 Jamaican dollars a day for that, right? And the government just don't have the full resource. He said to me to feed those kids is almost $400 a day. So think about it. You have 1,000+ in one school that is coming, don't have no food, right? Damian Crawford said, I don't care how many geometry set you give to that kid. If he's hungry, he's not going to learn.
Mm.
We have to figure that part out, right? And I think this is where we have talked about what role does the diaspora play in helping and how we could foster where, hey, if you went to York Castle, for example, how do we make sure that that
Sponsor
environment
5 kids.
right, exactly. So I think society have to step back and say, what is the role of government in this whole issue? And I think we touched on it a little bit where we had a community. It took a village, as you said, Dave. I got that. If I was on the street and I did something, I get beaten, and I hide it from my grandmother because I know if I say something, but the minute she find out, I get beaten again, right? So you
I
are
did.
respectable. You respect others. So I think we as a society have to have a larger conversation around what type of society that we want, and it's not just in Jamaica. There's lack of respect, right? We talk about you say Mrs. and Mr. There's a lot of people that don't do that. In my family, if you ever address any of my uncle as their first name, you get the slap of the day, right? Even as old as I am, I still say uncle this, auntie this, right? Because that's how we were brought up. And I think if we focus on those basic fundamental things, how do we get a family back? How do we get the community back? I think that will help the larger society because we'd have set certain expectations. So that's my bit, Sylbourne, in terms of we got to get back to the fundamentals. We got to get back to those things, and we got to figure out how to get resources in these schools and
Yes.
provide opportunities because a lot of the scammers, XYZ, they don't have the opportunities. And we have to figure out how we do that on a scale that is going to benefit society.
Yes, yes. Lester. Oh, sorry. My apologies. You're making some background sound. Sorry, Lester. Yes.
I agree with the O'Neill say, but you know, in order to do that, we have to be serious about government, right? The Prime Minister, and I'm not Joel, I'm talking whichever Prime Minister. So the Prime Minister, right, has to say, okay, you know what? I am going to extend my vulnerability politically so that I have a better future. The country has a better future, right? Now, at the end of the day, any politician, any party in power is always going to look for re-election, which is smart, right? Because you can't change nothing from in opposition. But at the end of the day, it makes no sense that we keep on kicking a 50-year-old can down the road. It makes no sense, O'Neill, we keep on a pussyfoot around certain things. Now, I'm all for freedom of speech and freedom of expression in the arts. You cannot have the most popular artists or artists singing hugely violent lyrics, right? Hugely sexual lyrics. We have to say what we want, regardless of what. We have to say, okay, you know, we don't want this in our society. Because other countries do it, you know. Other countries do it. We say, we do not want this. If you're gonna do this, right, we're gonna put a ban for you, or it's illegal or something. Because guess what happened? We have far too long given persons the responsibility to be honorable and to be decent.
Yeah.
And them fear it.
Let me just O'Neill, take care of yourself. You got to dash.
Yeah,
Big up O'Neill.
but great meeting you virtually, Dave, and good conversation.
O'Neill, what were you drinking? Did you drink something today?
Agua, me agua.
Agua. Everybody's drinking healthy stuff. Devon, we're gonna come to you and ask you what you're drinking after.
Yeah, man. I was just saying to O'Neill, nice meeting as well.
Right.
We'll keep the link, yeah, definitely. All right, O'Neill.
Yeah, definitely.
Cheers. Saying, yeah.
So what I'm saying is that you can't just leave the responsibility on the owners, right? Upon the artists, them or upon certain people for say, oh, me could do this. Because remember, you know, if a man used to earn $10 a week and he might do something that lewd or not favorable, and he might earn $1,000 a week now. You understand me? How if you tell the man to be honorable and stop when he might earn significantly more? There's a policy have to be in place. They say, look here, if you do this, the consequences, as what Dave said, the consequences are gonna be so greater that you're gonna decide, say, look here, no, we're not gonna do this no more. But also, when we look at the videos that children are doing, you know, creating, but not only that, you know, we see people having altercations and them recite lyrics. You understand me? We see young people stab each other, or hurt each other. And this has come from a society without control. Look how the people them drive on the street. Dave and I would talk about them something all the while. Look how the people them drive on the street, right? You'd never believe, say, there's real traffic police. 70% of the force, I think, or 60% of the force is traffic police. You understand me? And how the man them drive on the street. So even if a officer take a bribe, he can get a slap on the wrist, see me, because we have seen officers get bribed, get caught, and come back and get them job.
So how would you fix it, Lester? In 1 minute.
It has to be a governmental policy, heavy-handedly. You understand? So would have to tolerate.
So what you're actually trying to say is that government have to become unpopular by dealing with these things at the same time.
Yeah, but when I say government, you know, I'm including the opposition, and that's where the problem lies.
That's a very good point, including the opposition, because when I mentioned government earlier, I was actually incorporating the opposition, the leaders of the nation, as much as possible.
But Sylbourne, Sylbourne, when you have art, say you have like a particular policy that is like, for instance, needs, right? Yeah. And there is a rule. There was a rule that, or a law or stipulation that if you are caught on the street, like you walk on the street and an officer say, "Can I see your ID?" and you don't have your NIDS ID on you can be charged like say $20,000 or something like that, right? Because you're not able to instantly identify yourself. The diaspora and the opposition, right, lick out against that. And I'm saying, in the diaspora, you have to have your ID for you.
Yeah, but let's when you say have to have your ID on it, what do you mean by that? I can go without having my ID with me. And if when you say what do you mean by that's where you have to have your ID?
Here,
yeah,
you will be fined. In many European countries, if you don't produce your ID, you will be fined at least 600 to 800 euros, right? But what I'm saying is that when you keep giving Jamaicans who are largely uneducated, largely indisciplined, a leeway, you keep giving them play room. You understand me? We have the crime rate we have, right? When we have a man a fight police because the police want to give him a ticket, right? And to assault the police is 2,000 Jamaican dollars.
Yeah. All right.
It's not going to stop. So we have to decide, say, look here, what do we want as an onion? And I've asked this on the show, what type of society do we want? So we have to decide, say, we want a better society.
Well, I support the NIDS thing. I think the NIDS thing is a good venture as well because it's like a one-stop shop. So when you say I didn't know the diaspora, and this is the thing when they Davon, when they mention the diaspora, always clarify and say, what do you mean the diaspora? Who speak for me? These guys don't speak for me just because they're the diaspora. But anyway, Devon, what's your take? You got the answer.
All right. So I see Veronica in the comments saying something, and I want to wrap what she has said in the comments into what I'm going to respond to.
Is that one?
I'm going to wrap it all into one ball.
Okay. Yeah.
She says women don't get pregnant by themselves. Remember that. Now she's saying that in response to us saying that teenage pregnancies result in mothers who really don't know how to raise their kids.
Yes.
Now, let me map this out for you. A teenager, a 16, 17-year-old getting pregnant, or even a 15-year-old getting pregnant, she's going to get pregnant for one or two persons.
Yes.
Someone who's a teenager like herself, right? Maybe a classmate, maybe a friend, or she's going to get pregnant by a predator.
Yes.
She's not going to get pregnant for a decent smaddy, right? A decent man who's going to come into her life and teach her the right things. Because if him did decent,
he wouldn't have in the first place.
He wouldn't have been there in the first place.
Mm.
So she's going to get pregnant by one of two persons. Somebody who is either a teenager like herself and don't know better, or a predator who has no morals and is just looking to take advantage of her. So
in the UK, we call them pedophiles in the UK.
Exactly. So a teenage mother, the father, 90.59 whatever percent at the time, is not going to be present, right? Now, Lester speaks about government. Now, we envision government in the traditional way, which is the executive and the opposition, ruling party and the opposition, right? But in my world, in my brain, how government works is that government is layered. There are different levels, different layers of government, right? Yeah. So you have the big government where everybody want to talk about. This is government, the politics of it, PNP, JLP, Democrat, Republican. The big boys. People think of that as government.
Yeah.
And then you have the next layer of government, which is your local government. Right. Your councillors, your senators, whatever.
Tell the prime minister to get that election going sorted, or they're gonna do
right. So we'll talk about that. But I'm saying there are different layers of government, and people think that government stops there. But guess what? It doesn't. I am government in my yard.
Yes.
I am government in my yard. Once you come through my gate,
one done.
One done, you know. My government in my yard. Right? So we have a breakdown, not only at the highest level of government, but we have a breakdown of government at the lowest level.
So therefore, what you're actually trying to say, man or the head of the house or the head of the yard is not exercising their responsibility.
Well, I like to consider myself as a traditionalist moderner, right?
Yeah.
If there's such a word. I believe in modern things, that women should be equal to men, and if you want go work, you can go work, and if you want be as this and that as a man, then fine. But I still believe that a man should be the head of a household. I still believe in that.
A man to act like man.
Yeah, I still believe in man to protect, provide, and lead. I still believe that. Right? And in many households in Jamaica, there's not the man who is there as head to lead.
Yes.
Right? So you have many households where, and let me tell you this, leadership is natural. Leadership comes naturally. You can't make a leader. It has to come naturally from within. Right? So you have many women who are trying to lead the household where they are not equipped to lead. They're trying, and we love them, and them are try them best, but men are naturally bred, instinctively bred to lead.
So
women are instinctively bred to be nurturers, to be care. You see a man pull up the dog and them nurture, and that loving, nurturing thing. I'm not saying a man cannot have that, but it is different for a woman. The woman nurtures, loves, and cares. The man leads. It's natural instinct. You look in the wild, and it's no different. If you have a pride of lions, the male lion leads.
The mother said the female lion hunt. I want to hunt.
Female, because she has to care for the pride. She has to nurture the pride, my boss. So hunting is not a fact. So the male lion leads. It is a fact that she has to nurture her pride. Her pride has to eat. Right? You look in any set of animals, it is 99% of the case where it is the man who leads, or the male who leads, and the female nurtures. In our society, there's been a breakdown of that. There's been an absolute breakdown of that. And we have more households, more government. More government. I'm going to say household is a government. Every household is a government. Because once you pull your door, you lock your door. No police, no nothing can come in your yard. You dictate what go up on your pot. In your pot. Government can't tell you to eat pork when you eat.
So what you're saying, therefore, men need to exercise their responsibility.
We need more men in Jamaica who are ready to take it on. And no matter what government does, government cannot legislate morality. Government cannot legislate morality.
I've been saying that. I've been saying that for years.
You think Mark Bolin can come and tell us, be a good person? Our bro God can come and tell us, take care of your baby mother and feed your children? They can't.
Sylbourne. Is it a meme there? What is happening, You see, a lot of the men today are unprepared to lead, unfit to lead, right? But guess what? A lot of them are fashionable men So a lot of young girls are attracted to these men because they're fashionable, they wear nice things and whatever,
Nice.
right? And yeah,
They're
but they,
all very funky. They're all very funky. Their legs are so very thin.
I mean,
Sometimes
you can say that, but I
And
don't look at
Sylbourne,
that. I don't,
one quick thing before I get into your thing, Lester. You see the meme that you just share, Sylbourne, is
yeah,
very telling, you know.
yes,
Because if I get a time machine now and I travel into the past 100 years from now, the lion at the top are gonna look the same as the
yeah.
lion today. No changes.
Mm,
You me tell you, the lion at the top are gonna look the same as the lion
mm.
today. But if me getting a machine and me travel 100 years back, the families of yesteryear are not going to look the same today. The men of yesteryear are not going to look the same today.
Yes.
They look different. Their attitudes different, morality different, everything different. So society is evolving, but we are evolving backwards.
You know, just like what you guys said earlier, and I think O'Neill said it, whereby the only time I was gonna get caning at school at York Castle High School was when me and Brigadier Brigadier whatever his name was gonna fight. We had a small fight, and we went to the principal, Gordon Sterling, to get caning, and then the Brigadier started to cry, and the principal said, "You save him," because he started to cry. So the principal said, "You guys go about your business." I was more fearful, not of the caning. I'll tell you
What
this
am I
now.
gonna do?
I was more thinking about my father. That was what I was more worried about. It wasn't the caning, brethren. It was if my father find out.
Same, same thing
Dave,
happened to me. Same thing
Dave, what
happened to
happened?
me.
Dave, say, some guys before my file for my son, some guys in Franklinton wanted to recruit some youth from Red Square, want to recruit my son in our gang. Because they said my son tall, you understand, almost 6 foot and
Yeah.
big. And him brave, him
Yeah, man.
and my son said to them, say, listen, me not join a gang, right? You're not gonna kill me. Him say, me more afraid of what my father gonna do to me and what only can ever do to me. But then a bad man actually recruit me, you understand me? But him say, look here, what my father gonna do to me. Me fear that more than me fear Uno, So rather
Mm.
worry Uno and stay on the gang, right? And the thing is that I was present,
Mm.
you know,
Active and
and
present. That's a key thing.
yeah.
Active and present. Yeah.
So I can even show photos of me and them as a chat throughout the years. Being present, as I said, Sylbourne, and being active, me walk my son to school. Me go PTA meetings and stuff. Me the only man sometimes, 200 woman, 300 woman. Me the
Yeah,
only
man.
man some, you know, and it is very telling when you look across and you hear like fear son get killed, fear son get killed, and because guess what? It's not that she's a bad mother.
Mm-mm. She try her
It's the
best.
absence. Yeah, it's the absence of a male role model, right? So when you look at the men in prison, majority of the men in prison come from single parent homes who never grew up with a father or a male figure in them life. Most of them, right? And when you look in North America, the same thing, where the male figure in the home to say, hey, this is how you become a man, this is how you become leaders, this is how you become, a good product of society. It is absent. And then you have the woman who is trying. Remember, if you have 3 pitney, she have to divide her time for work and these 3 kids. So she can socially engineer you properly. She
Exactly.
can't, right? So it's not even just a feeling on her part. It's that
Yeah.
she do her best, and it is the male to stand up beside her and say, hey, I have this, I have
Yes.
this, and
Well, mm,
it is becoming what I see happening now, right? Is that you have a lot more fathers involved in them youth life now, right? But
mm,
these men are still not leaders. You know what I mean? Because you have a lot of men who look like the lion down at the bottom, you know. With the picnic.
Real men, Lester. Real men. I will give you a story. I probably shouldn't get so personal, but I'll give you a story. So my nephew, he's gonna be 17 in a few months. About 6 months, he's gonna be 17. His dad migrated to the States, right? And even before his dad migrated, him get trouble. I'm gonna tell you the truth. Him get trouble. Not big trouble, but you know, mischievous. And them kind of, as a teenager, you know, you're curious and all kind of things. And his father was gone, and his mother was basically left with him. And me as a man, I am stern when I'm ready for stern. So I will get very stern. And she never liked that. She never liked that, none at all. So I said to her, I said, all right then, since that is the way you want it, not my child, your child, I will allow you to raise your child how you see fit to raise your child. It get to a stage where you would get kicked out of school, now go to school, all them something there. And I said to her, I say, yo, listen, you have a decision to make. It's either you allow me to get concerned with this boy, or you bury him.
Yeah.
Straight.
Yep.
The boy is back in school.
Yes.
And doing well at school. B8 and them thing there and top in class and them thing there. I say, see, I'm not going to take responsibility for everything that you have done, you know, because as mother, you are the one who still nurture him. You are the one who still take care of him. Your school fee, you make sure him eat, you do all of these things. Still, you have to take 90% of the responsibility of where he's at. No. But you see, because that 10% was missing,
it's very important.
Everything fall apart. So I don't want us to mistake or diminish the importance of that 10%. Kids need guidance.
Yes.
Kids need guidance. Children are learning, no matter, and when we say children, I don't mean 6 and 7 and 8-year-old. You're still a child when you're in your 20s. You're still a child. You're still learning. Things that me used to do at 21, me now going to do now. Because at 21, I learned that them things there don't make sense.
Let's say once a child,
you know them way there. No, as a big man, now take certain risk. I learned that in my 20s. Them risks there, no worth it. You understand? So me, I was still learning, right?
Yeah.
And so we see these kids and we think, okay, I'm 15, so him know wrong from right. No.
All right.
He's still learning. Learning. So you have to be there to guide them. And you see, as they get into that age, especially the boy children,
yes,
the hormones and everything, it tells them without them even knowing that this is a female.
Yes.
This female should not be leading me.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they rebel and they don't even know it.
They
don't even know it.
We're going to have a discussion regarding men and manhood and real men at another time. You know,
and woman too.
And woman too, of course. Yes, woman too, of course. Because you don't get beaten, so you have to say that. You don't get beaten, you know, so you have to say that. Devon,
my wife is the boss, you know. Me can admit it right there, so you know, my wife is the boss.
Yeah.
I'm here the leader. I'm the leader for the family. My wife is the boss.
I have no comments, let's say. You can talk out here.
Same thing with me, Lester. She are the boss, but me are the leader.
Yeah. Right? I hear Sylbourne very quiet, you know, Sylbourne. What?
Me?
Yeah, you're very quiet.
No, I'm the head of my house. I have no qualms about that. I come straight from Ochi, you know. My wife comes straight from Ochi as well, you know. So therefore, there's no problem about that. And Devon, I always like to show where I'm from, you know. Leicester sometimes don't understand that, but I'm from Ochiros, you know, straight out of here.
Good place. Good place.
Leicester is a struggler in a Ochi. No, we have. He has been imported. We have You know, he has a right. He has a right.
So Sylbourne, when they import me not watch like how we import Canadian weed.
Well, I don't know what. As a matter of fact, talking about the Canadian weed, what about the yeah? What's the outcome of that? That is hold on. 9 days wonder is gone. It's done and gone.
Well, first of all, I've seen so many different takes on that thing that I don't even know where to begin. Because first of all, we in Jamaica, we think that we have the best weed in the world. That is not the case.
Yes,
That's not true.
That is not true. We like to think that.
Let's say, are you saying that's not true? What
That's
Devon
not true.
said, or not true that we have the best weed? Which one is it?
That's not true. For years now, we don't have the best weed in the world. Years now.
Okay.
We don't. That are just facts. So when I see a little thing and the man them say, yo, them are import weed from Canada, I am saying, okay, then make us see what exactly there is. It importing so they can test so we can improve the quality of our weed? Is it that? Or is it that they've gotten a general license to import weed generally?
You see, Devon,
yeah.
One of the issues is this, and I keep saying to Lester all the while, the news thing come out and it just blew up completely, and then you can't catch it back. And that's why Lester will know that sometimes I will not even touch certain things until it died down a bit and find out exactly what is happening, because everybody wants to be breaking.
And not only breaking, we talk about the social media clicks and likes. I can tell you this as somebody who's in media. You see, the social media clicks and likes, it's in a media too. People write headlines to get clicks and likes. And the headlines now have nothing to do with the article. You read the article and you why this headline?
Hold on. I'm guilty of this because I'd set this show with a different topic. I will not touch that topic at all. What the topic the Lester?
No, but that's different still, That's different still, because they have a headline and we stray away from the headline. It's a live show. But you talk about people sit down and say stuff like alien lands in Mobile, and then when you read it, it's a man from Haiti, an illegal. You understand what I say? You see the headline, you're like, what? Alien come from outer space and Jamaica, them there. When you read the actual articles, an illegal alien. You say you have that kind of thing. So you see a headline that says import license granted for weed from Canada. But when you read the article, the license really speaks about research.
Because
that's brought in for research.
Because Virgin, I was in the park walking and I did a video. And while I did the video, I qualified myself and said, well, listen, the government must know something that I don't know. So let me just leave it there. But it don't make sense to me, but I believe the government must know something. You understand? And wait for the end result of it to see what happens. Lester.
If we're importing weed from Canada, we need imports for research purposes. If we're importing weed from Canada for research purposes, we need to import some from California, because the guys down in California have been doing this for a while now, and them have some blend down there that if you take one sniff, you knock out.
We qualify them strain I go and go down there. You see Sylbourne, and you know when me the policy me talk straight. The government of Jamaica blundered in them communication, right? They should be the one with the big loud horn explaining out the bat exactly what is this. Don't start to try play catch up with it, right?
They should have announced it.
They should have announced it. Don't make it break in the media, and the media push the narrative then, and then people start now twist it and turn it, and you can't catch it back again, right?
We have guys on TikTok who never go to Jamaica talk about it same way, and I've been line
exactly. But as a Dave said, and I said this last week I think on the show, and I've been saying it for years. Jamaica not have the best weed in the world. We love to think that. We love to think that. All right. You see what happened now, People taste has evolved, So people want different tastes and different strains of weed and stuff like that. So when I import the weed, right, as what Dave said, it's for research purposes. It's also for say, but all right, how can we get these strains? How can we merge it with our local weed? What can we do to have a wider palette of weed stuff so we can improve the market? But me go put that aside. Even if they might import the weed for sell locally, and I said this last week here, we are sell weed to Canada. We in a for the market, I have Canadian weed growers, So all we want for in a for the market, but I said lock them out of our market.
Who said deregulation? Who said deregulation when I was in Jamaica? Who said deregulation? Deregulation. What did you say, Aga? Deregulation, whereby the market was open.
Yeah.
And it opened up in a way whereby, so therefore Canada can come in, everybody can come in.
But for Jamaica, PJ opened up the market more than anybody else, right? The markets. And it helped kill a lot of sectors in Jamaica. I heard a lot of sectors in Jamaica because it should be done in increments. It should be done where people can transition into the new system. But what I'm saying is that overall, right, as a society, this topic, the things we are talking about related to the topic, because as I say, the national unity. We need a unity in the family where men step up and be a part of the family. Men step up and be a part of the community. Men step up because women in most countries vote more than men. Most countries. Right? The men need to come out and vote. The men need to come out and work. When you look at the call center, them mostly women, right?
Listen,
when you look into the management level, mostly women.
Listen. Over here when they have immigration. Sorry, go on. Listen.
So no, what I'm saying is that the things that we talk about is relatable because we need to have this national unity that we decide. Well, what is the Jamaican dream? What is the focus of Jamaica? What is it that we're going after, right? And at every level, as every level of government in Jamaica, right? Because the parish council supposed to in tune with central government, right? Yes. And it's also a breakdown. That means how me operate in my family. It's also in tune and in tandem with central government.
Yes.
We not supposed to do something we opposite that with central government have designated, right? And central government should not designate something so outlandish that fitting with my lifestyle. So we need to have that consensus, that unity, that that's about, this is the direction we are going in. The last thing I say, whenever we have an opposition, whether GLP in opposition or PNP in opposition, you know what I hate? What I hate is that the opposition, no matter how good the executive come with something, no matter how good them come with something, them can't stand up and say, even say the public look up on it. The opposition must say, something nothing wrong with that. Something support that. Me support that, right?
No,
I'm not parties.
No,
they oppose everything for just opposing sake. And that's what is divide.
Is that what is happening there? Is that what is happening there with the PNP? In a way.
Yes, but what I'm saying, even JP in the opposition, we do it too.
Yeah. Well, in the UK, for argument's sake, I know for sure regarding the Brexit, the opposition came in and they fall in line with it. And the recent, not the boat crisis, but the recent Brexit with Northern Ireland, which was done, Keir Starmer came in and supported in principle as well. So therefore, we have seen many incidents whereby they fall in line. And definitely we're going to talk about the national unity bit another time and look at some of the different countries and what spirals or what create a national unity. And Devon, one of the things that we need to also come back and talk about is the Vision 2030, because nobody is talking about it. Is it real or is it just a pipe dream? I mean, I always think about it all the time when you have elections. If Vision 2030 was something that the country is going for, you don't really need any new policies. You just need to work towards Vision 2030. But that's for another thing at the same time. And I do agree, definitely, that opposition and the executive, the government should work together if something is actually working good. Just like how in the USA, when I was touching base earlier, September 11th, everyone rally around. Pearl Harbor, everyone rally around. When it come on to something of a national nature, everyone rally around. Can we say in Jamaica, everyone is rallying around something?
Sylbourne, I just want to jump in real quickly, 30 seconds.
Go on.
I think you are hitting the nail on the head, because if you look at America right now, America is falling. She has fallen. And if you look at it, one of the major reasons why it is falling or has fallen is the division that has seeped into American politics. Democratic and Republican voices cannot meet. There was always consensus around certain things. No, there's no consensus around anything. And as you look, you see America falling apart. What we have in Jamaica is what has happened to us since forever. We are in a constant state of campaigning, right? And as Lester said, it's not one side or the other side. It's both sides. Everything now in Jamaica has become political. And every step you take, every move you make is politics. And it's not one side, it's both sides. There must be certain things that we can come together and say, yes, this is the way forward.
Because, I know I'm jumping at this because I need to go, but every time we're talking about something, I keep wanting to come in and say something as well. I say it as well, even in the UK, when it come on to the high cost of living, even with Zelensky, one would think about that. There'll be some high world leaders that will put these guys together and say, listen, yo, stop this, man. Let's sort this thing out now. Even in the UK, when it come on to the fact that Shell, BP, and these guys are making so much profit, yet at the same time, they are saying, because of Russia, we are having to pay more oil. But yet at the same time, these guys are making so much money. It is like the government, which is lacking. The government, this is the UK as well, need to come together around some salient issues, some salient points, and say, we've got to work together and get this thing done. And in Jamaica, with the teachers, for argument's sake, with the teachers, I don't know if it is politicized again, but I sense it is becoming politicized. Am I correct?
But hold on it. Listen, no. It's the teacher issue.
Yeah.
The JTA is saying one thing, but a lot of the other the teacher's body, right, is saying something different. The JTA is not representing what the whole body of the teachers want, right? And it has done so for years. The Police Services Commission, the Police Service Commission at the union, right? No, the
Police Service Commission would do the hiring. Police Federation.
Police Federation, right? But they have their own agenda, right? And then a lot of times, when you look on the JTA heads of the past JTA, heads of the Police Federation, you see them run on a ticket like 2-3 years after you see them run on a political ticket, and you say, oh, that's gonna be so many times. Right, and
that is to be fair, Lester. Although one does predominate, it is on both parties. So we've had Michael Stewart in the past, we've had Walton Small in the past from the JTA, but we've also had Ruel Reid from the JTA as well. So one predominates, but the other is also there. So there's also a lot of politics that is involved. And the same is true for the Police Federation. The same is true for the Students' Guild at the University of West Indies. A lot of these unions and things and are political. And so you can't get a real feel of where the Jamaican people want to go. You can't have a leadership.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time we got to wrap up, and thank you so much, Dr. Blogging God, and thank you so much, Dave on Ninja. If I don't stop, I'm gonna go until 3 hours later.
But Sylbourne, look at Sylbourne.
Esther.
You see, the group of it, the WhatsApp group of it,
Yeah.
This go on right through the day, right through the night. It's
24/7.
just
So people sleep and wake
I
up.
wake up with 500 messages on my phone.
yeah, man. You can find what 600 messages.
And we discuss these things day in, day
Day
out.
out.
But you know the bit about the discussing bit, but does it? I'm sure it does, and you can answer this, and I'm sure. But I guess you guys have the outlet where it can generate some sort of actions.
Yeah, man. What persons, and I won't name, but we have persons in the group that is a part of the administration.
Yes. Okay. Good. Most important thing.
So the discussions are not just empty discussions.
Yes.
But we have suggestions, we have solutions, and it is picked up to the central government and to the hierarchy of the leadership. So I mean, whether they take it and do something with it, that's a different thing, because we can only we are mere mortals in the eyes of gods.
More in the eyes of God. All right, Devon, listen, Virgin. Thank you. I think you're frozen. Devon.
No, man.
Peace out. Peace out.
Big up.
Lester, we talk.
Yeah,
we catch up. All right, man. And Lester, send me the link for Devon again. Your YouTube, your link, your blog inside. Yeah. All right. Cheers.
Yes.
Respect. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for joining, and gonna dash now. It was a good discussion. Topic which I had coined did not come into play, but nevertheless, Lester actually did say that we were talking about national unity at the same time, and I think that's one of the most important things, that unity comes in all different forms. But definitely we'll have to touch the topic another time. Definitely about, is it time for a government of national unity? And according to what Devon said, government comes in all different respects. It is not just the government of the opposition and the executive, but also in our home, right? Who is the government in our home, right? Who is the government in our neighborhood? And that is also very crucial and very important as well. So the topic was on top, Unty, top of the moment, So have a good night, ladies and gentlemen. Peace out. God bless you. See you next week. Walk and talk, not walk and talk motivational moments. Well, again, it's the morning now. Talk and sip. Thank you very much, and have a great night. Peace out.